Oh, wow, the sunshine just came out. It is got super bright. Oh, well, I am live. Can you guys hear me? Welcome. Hey, Dan, how are you? Welcome. Okay, so I really want to get going and getting started on this project. I am making a Louise hat from, that's backwards, from Bob's Burger. This one, I think these antenna ears are too long, so this was my first draft, so I'm going to be adjusting them and doing them differently. Hi, Toby. Already figured out my pattern. I took the circumference of my head, divided it in half so that I could do a symmetrical pattern. And I put the fold on the front seam, and I'm going to be sewing it up through the back seam. So I'm going to cut this whole hemisphere on the fold, putting the fold at center front. I hope that makes sense, and I'm going to cut it straight up till right about even with this dart, and then it's going to start curving. Can't really quite see it on my pattern because this is a straight line here, but when I actually cut it out, I cut it out as a whole piece with this attached, but then I just separated it because it was easier to scan the size pattern. So, Toby, I need that fabric. Can I have it? Oh, high five. Okay. Excuse me, can you move? I need this. Okay. So I have pink polar fleece. I have a whole bunch of it because I am going to be making a couple of these for Christmas presents, but anybody that's going to be receiving them isn't watching me right now. So this is polar fleece. The edges don't need to be finished. That's what's really nice about it, so you don't really have to overthink it. However, I am going to completely line my hat, so even if it did need the seam finishes, I don't have to really worry about it because they will get finished because it'll be fully lined. So I'm going to cut out 2 of these on the fold. So technically 4 hemispheres, 2 on the fold, or 2 of these full flattened all the way out. And there is a grain. I'm going to go parallel with the selvage. Selvage is this ugly edge of the fabric. See how this one has the ugly edge, where this edge right here is a cut edge of the fabric, if you can tell the difference between those two. So the selvage edge goes up and down, and I'm going to fold it along that selvage edge like this, just enough that it'll fit my pattern piece. So ever so slightly more. But all right, Toby, you're where I want to cut. And my grain line, and when I say grain line, fabric is a grid, and the strongest fibers poles in the grid are the parallel ones, and the filler ones aren't as strong. So when you have the grain line, you want to go along the strongest fibers, and you want the filler fibers are going to stretch more. So the stretch is going to go around, and the strong you want to go up and down. So that's also why you follow along the selvage. I hope that helps. I know that's normally with wovens, but it kind of applies to knits too because you have the rows and it stretches around. So that's what I mean when I say grain line. Let me just tilt it so you guys can see ever so slightly where I'm going to be cutting this out. A little more. And there is a right side and a wrong side of this fabric. So I have to keep that in mind when I'm cutting this out. And I'm going to start the curve right about here. Cutting out 2 of these. Hello, Ralph Mork, and hello, Trash Panda. Welcome, guys. Ugh. Okay, so now it's cut on the fold. What is this thing? Ear flaps and a curved dome. Head, there's a right side and a wrong side. This side is the more fuzzy side. You could probably see it if I get it in the light, how it's more fuzzy than this side. This side's a little bit more of the smoother texture. But I like this texture for my outside and this texture on the inside. You can slightly see that they're different colors. So you want to flip your pattern. Well, actually, they're both the right size. So make sure, and it's symmetrical. So make sure you put the fuzzier side on top of the fuzzier side when you start to sew them together. Let me cut out one more of these pattern pieces. And then I will show you how to sew it. Okay. Cut this out. Okay. Second one cut out. Now, excuse me, Toby. I'm going to show. Can I move this? I want to show y'all what I'm doing. Okay. So I am working with a lofty fabric. Lofty meaning a thicker fabric. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that I lengthen my stitch length. If I use it at the regular setting, it's going to get really tight stitches, and it's going to stretch out your fabric, and then it's going to lay funky, and it's not going to lay nice. It's going to stretch everything out. So before I even start, I'm just going to make it as the longest stitch length that it can go before I even go. And let me see. First thing I'm going to do is sew my darts. Darts aren't as tricky as they sound. It's these little triangles that I cut out. I'm going to put the right sides together and close it. And see how I have my cut edge that starts here? I'm going to stitch from right where it folds over straight for like 2 or 3 stitches, and then I'm going to just follow along this edge, and that's going to make it a blended dart that's not going to be puckering or sticking out in a weird way. So, and I'm going to start at the tip of my dart and work my way towards the edge because I want the tip of my dart to be the most lined up spot. And if it doesn't line up as I get to the edge of my fabric, that can be hidden in the seam where you can't hide your offness at the very point. So I hope that helps. Dan, how many of these hats am I making? I was thinking about making about 6 of them, but I made a half of one because I'm going to redo the ears. I really like the way the hat fits, but I'm not a big fan of the ears. So I'm going to work out those ears until I like them because it's all about the proportions. All right, right sides together. I'm starting on the very edge of the fold right before it starts to be my cut seam. And I have my presser foot today, so I don't have to try and guesstimate everything. But 2, 3 stitches, and then I go back 3 stitches, 1, 2, and 3. I do that so that it locks it in and it doesn't just start to unravel at that point. So 3 stitches, and then I go back 3, and then I go about my regular sewing. Jeez, this light is so harsh right now. I'm sorry. This time of day. Oh well. But yeah, let me sew the start. And now that I'm at the end, I'm going to take 3 stitches to lock it at the end. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and then go back 3, and then forward till the end. And what do I mean by locking the stitches? It's just so that it doesn't come unraveled and the stitching you do stays there. So now I have 1 dart sewn, so it's starting to be a little bit more of a ball shape. And let me do the other side. Start at the tip right on the fold. 1, 2, 3, go back 3, 2, 3, and now forward. Okay, that's half of my hat, and now let me do the lining, the same thing. I'm not doing the center front one yet, okay? Not yet. I'm doing the 2 on each side. Yes, right sides are together. Yeah. What are you guys making for Christmas presents? Are you guys going to make any presents? Or is it just too much time and too much work and it's coming down to the last minute? And I'm sewing right sides together so that my seams will be on the wrong side sticking out. Okay. Here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So now I am going to take this whole hat now and take my 2 darts, and I'm going to line them up. So see how these little flaps are, this seam allowance is flapping over. I'm going to make an X so that the joints meet up, and I'm going to put a pin on this side of the seam allowance and this side of the seam allowance so that I have a little X on top, and And then I'm going to treat this like a dart, so I'm just going to start right on the fold so I don't have a weird point, and just do my back stitch and then stitch all the way up, over, and around. And then I made a little point right here where I'm going to stop, but pins are your friend. Dan does junks. Nah, just buy it. We'll be making food though. Yes, I was going to say, then are you going to do baked goods? Because I feel like baked goods are always an acceptable homemade gift from friends and family, because who doesn't like cookies? And if you don't like cookies, why? Like, why? I know there's some cookies that are better than other cookies, but you have to find at least one cookie you like. All right, remember the darts, I'm going to do the seam allowance so it's folded out and not folded to one side or the other side. I'm going to pin it so that both seam allowance, all the seam allowances is laying out and flat. If this was a knit, I would press it first with an iron, but because it is a knit, it's going to just sew into place really easily, so I don't really have to stress out about that. But also because it's a knit, make sure your seam allowance, I cannot talk. Your stitch length is set at the longest length that it can, so you aren't stretching it out. Don't pull the fabric as it's going through, because if you're pulling it like this, it will keep like that. So you want to make sure you just feed it in and let the feed dogs do their job. Feed dogs are the little grippy things that push your fabric through on the sewing machine. But okay, so now I am going to start at the forehead, and I am going to go all the way around and stop at the nape of the neck. Treating this like a dart, starting right before the fabric's cut, 3 stitches forward, 3 stitches back. 3 doesn't have to be exact, but you know, a couple forward, a couple back, and then, yeah. Now my presser foot is pushing the fabric the way I don't want to go, so it's okay if you just lift it up so that it lays the right way. Sometimes I just get going really fast and I forget that I can just stop and not have to deal with that problem later. But yeah, all flat. When I did my prototype, I marked where I stopped with the notch. I didn't notch this one, and I think it really did help notching it, because this is now going to line up with the second one. And if they were notched, they would be perfectly, as opposed to where I eyeball stopped it. So yeah, a little notch right here would be helpful, and I will be doing that on the next couple. Yeah. Once I figure out the ears, then I'll assembly line it and do them all at the same time, where I cut out a bunch. Oh, that's the right size. Okay. But while I'm still trying to figure it out, I'm going to do another prototype all by itself. Okay. Ralph Mork, never seen Bob's Burger, but this looks like a nice project. I'm working on a metal, casting some pendants as presents. I hope to have everything done on time. Right? Good luck with that. My brother made a bunch of handmade jewelry, not last year, but the year before, for all of us. And he made it out of wire. Oh my gosh, it was gorgeous. But he definitely was crunching down at the last minute trying to get all the stuff done. But yes. That's a good idea. Not that I want to steal his idea, but Christmas presents. There's a lot of people on the list, you know. It means you have good, lots of friends and family, so can't complain. Ooh. Okay, again, I'm going to start at the forehead as if it's a dart, so all the way down till my corner at the nape of the neck. And then, yeah, right sides together, salvages pinned open. 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and back. Okay, now I have an inside and I have an outside. I didn't catch the inside of this dart. I'm going to just sew it a little bit better because I don't want to deal with that later. Okay. Yes, much better. All right. I am going to mark the center front of my hat with the pin. The center back is already marked with the seam. I have no side seams marked, but there are ear flappies and they should line up. What's wrong, Toby? You okay? Yeah. So Toby's right here. I don't know if you guys can tell, but Spooky's right here. He's a little black boy. Hi, Spooky. And then Bruno's up there. So, I'm surprised they're not all cuddled up together, but it's gotten warm. When it's cold in the mornings, I catch them all on top of each other. Okay. So turning this one inside out so that the right side with all the finished edges fits inside. And I'm going to take my 2 pins where I marked the center fronts and line those up. And now everything should work out nicely. If you're center front's the most important. Mark your center front. People see that first, especially when it's on your face. And then mark center back. You have a little bit of wiggle room because I didn't mark it with a dart. I mean, a notch, but it's not going to be that big of a deal. Danda's junk. My present to myself will be my friggin' Gundam finished. Right? Get that project off of the list. Give yourself brownies and then move on. Come on. No, because then it's like the next thing you torture yourself with. It'll be a bigger Gundam next time. You know? It'll be the whole fleet. But, yes. So now I'm just going to go and pin it up all the way around my hat. I'm going to leave an opening in the back so I can flip it. Now, this is where I see all the biggest mistakes on DIY hats is that when they sew it together, the seams get stretched. So really, 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 really try hard not to pull on your fabric as you're sewing it. Just guide it in there gently, gently, you know? Yeah. And then also, I've seen people turn it over and finish the stitch around it, which gives a good edge, but that's also another potential place for it to stretch out as you sew around, especially if you're using a stitch length that's too long. That will stretch your fabric out. So just be careful because we're doing the perimeter. So we want it to stay kind of together. The fabric, the thread doesn't stretch. unless we used a zigzag, then it would have more of a stretch to it. It only has the give that the the longer stitch length gives us, which should be more than enough. But I hope that makes sense. I know it's a little bit confusing. Couple more pins. Oh, Toby, is that your head? Space for your head. Look at how cute Toby is. Welcome, Wolverine Scratch. I was kind of going for a little bit of a Linda look from Bob's Burgers because she wears the red shirt and the jeans, but you know, just kind of channeling the inner Linda so that I could make Luis's hat. Okay, so I have it pinned all the way around, except for this part. I'm going to start here. I'm going to pin it, and so all the way around, and I'm going to end here. I'm going to put those pins in, but I wanted to show you that that I'm going to start sewing right before the seam because I really want the seam to line up, and I'm going to end my circle here, and then this is going to be the opening that I'm leaving to flip the whole thing out, inside out. So, yeah. And you don't want to do that right where the seams are because that'll be a pain in the butt to like hand stitch and close up. Yes. So. Okay. Hi, Toby. I'm going to block your beautiful face for a second. Wolverine Scratch, what are you making? I am making Luis's hat from Bob's Burgers. I'm making I'm making about 6 of them for various people for Christmas presents, so I figured it would be something that people might want to see, especially since I patterned it. I think the pattern turned out great. Look at that. Oh, I put it on my head, but it's too stabby at the moment. Yes, I'm starting here, right before the center back seam, and sewing all the way around to right before where I stitched. How do I want to... Now, when you line up your fabric onto the sewing machine, always have the fullness to the outside. On a small project like this, I used to get myself all... This is not a fun problem to deal with. You're dealing with all the bulk of everything. Keep everything to the outside, so when you plan your trip around, you have the seam allowance that you're just guiding around the edge. So, all the little things. Okay. Where is my magnet bowl? Oh, there it is. My magnet bowl. This is, I stole it from my dad. He's a mechanic and he uses it for nuts and bolts. And he got this from my grandma, who was a seamstress, sewer, crafter, artsy person. And she had got it for him for his nuts and bolts. And then I stole it from him. Anyways, I absolutely love this. You can get them at Harbor Freight. They're just magnetic bowls. My favorite thing. And so I can just throw my pins. All right, make sure you take care around those seam allowances so that the excess is folded out. Okay. Magneto called. He wants his bowl back. It's mine. Good luck. I stole it. Can't steal it from the thief. Yes, it is so easy, especially when you're going around the curves, to stretch it out because you're trying to keep the edge on a straight line. So it's very easy to really stretch out your fabric, especially as you're going around the face curve. And and it's a little bit, it doesn't happen quite as much at the nape of the neck, but it really happens as you go around because you're going from one type of curve to another. Just feed it in. Don't stretch it. Don't hold any of the fabric back. I know that's hard to, when you're doing it, you'll understand, but yeah, careful around the curve, the concave curve. Where am I going to stop? I'm going to stop right about there. I just realized I forgot one teensy tiny step. So Luis's hat has little strings hanging from it, and you add those in this step. So I'm just going to rip open the edges right here on the tips so that I could add a little strip of polar fleece so that it has that little detail, because I feel like that is a big part. And then I tied this one in a knot. I didn't tie this one in the knot because I wasn't sure if I liked it or not. But yeah. So because I didn't do a super tight stitch, can you guys see it? I have these stitches right here that aren't eating away at the fabric. So I'm just going to snip it here. And here. It's okay, just everybody's watching, so it gets extra hard. But now I just ripped out those seams from there to there. Now I have it opened back up. Let me do it on the other side real quick. Yeah, I know. It's such a little detail, but I feel like without that, it just isn't right. So I'm just going to take the little extra effort and rip out an inch of seam in either edge. Okay, now I got nervous. I was like, oh no, did I? No, this isn't a piece. It's just because I just cut a curve, so I had a curved piece. But doesn't that look like a hat right there? Bruno and Spooky look so dang comfy. Yeah, look at them. Toby needs to readjust. Gonna watch some Bob Burgers videos so I understand what's going on. I like Louise. I think she's a cute little character. Oh, it's good that I made this mistake so I can show you guys that it's not the end of the world. You can just rip out a seam and fix it. Okay, we'll take it. I'll take it as a win. Wolverine Scratch, have you watched Pearl movie? No, I have not. I love the dress in the movie. They're so Alfred Hitchcock. I'll have to go check it out, but no, I have not yet. So I am just going to cut a couple straight lines that are the same width. He's gonna try and curl up with Spooky. We'll see if they let him. So Toby is really goofy, and Spooky knows that because he's really heavy pawed. So Toby really likes cuddling. No, Toby. No, that's not your toy. Anyways, I think it's cute when him and Spooky cuddle. Yeah, I do. Always do, Toby. Now two ties, two little rectangles the same length. Now I'm not going to be talking to you about knits, and there's an up and a down, and there's a straight way. There's the stretch goes around the body or around the head, and the structural strength goes up and down. Well, when you take a knit and you pull it, it's going to curl into like a tube, and it's nice and stretchy. So that's how we're just going to finish the edge, and then I'm going to knot the end of those little strings, but I'm not going to stretch it out until it's on. But just that's why it matters which direction it goes. Okay, so now I have my encased hat. I still have my opening here. This is where I'm going to flip it right here at this point. But I opened up each of these ends, and I'm going to shove this rectangle all the way in. So only what's going to be caught in the seam allowance right here is sticking out. So it's sticking its tongue out at you. So it's a sandwich with the rectangle in the side, and I'm going to stitch it into place. So it'll be in the right side when everything's flipped out. I'm going to need those in a minute. Okay. Wolverine got a plane to catch. See you guys catch again, everyone. Bye, Wolverine Scratch. Thank you for stopping in. Okay, so flappy things are pin closed. So where I still have the stitches, see how this is kind of sticking out, this thread from where I ripped it out. The back side it's looped and it's still connected, but on the front side it's not. This can keep pulling out, and the seam will like rip out if I'm not careful. So what I'm going to do is a back stitch here where I still have it stitched, and then I'm going to continue around and back stitch past where my stitching was till I meet back up, so that the so it doesn't pop open at those seams, because that's where you're a little bit vulnerable to have, especially if people pull on it, those seams to pop open. So yeah, hope that makes sense. Here you go. And again, I'm still at the longest stitch length. I haven't changed it. Alright, there's that side, this side. Okay, so now I'm opening, and this is the weird thing that I just sewed. I'm going to flip it inside out, and it's going to get a little weird before it starts looking like a hat. Where am I? There I am. I didn't plug my iron in, so it's not going to do me any good right now. And ironing is what makes things look significantly better. Give me 2 seconds while I plug that in. All right, so now we have a hat. Needs bunny ears. Not bad, right? And the little hole that I left open, it just folds up really nice right there into the seam. And I'm going to put one pin holding it where it has the seam allowance at the right spot where I need it. And I have a needle and thread right here with a dark pink thread already on it. And I'm going to start right about where the stitching ended. Take 2 stitches right on top of each other, right in the same spot. And then I'm just going to hand stitch it back and forth. What's really nice is that this is a really lofty fabric, so it's very forgiving for hand stitches, and nobody will see that it was even there. I'm going to leave the string so you can see where I started and finished, and then you can tell me how it looks. And I'm just going right back and forth from side to side of this seam, just going from picking up this side, that side, this side, that side, and making my way to right here where then I'm going to backstitch. And you want do about 10 to 12 stitches per inch. So just kind of, that's about an inch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you know. And let me backstitch. Okay, and so this is all stitched up, and right here is where I started, right here's where I ended, from here to there, and it's just a seam. Now I'm going to cut off my threads so that you can't tell, and then see if any of the threads from my inside have poked through, because as you can tell I have not trimmed threads yet at this point, but most of them are encased. Shh, I'm just a little lazy. If you see my threads, they get cut. Okay. Not bad. Not bad at all. Now I have to plug in my iron because it's going to make things easier and look better. 1 second. Okay. That's going to get hot for a second. All right. Dan Does Junk says, I would like to spend more time behind a sewing machine. I just really don't have projects in mind that require sewing. Now that you've tried it, which do you enjoy more, sewing or soldering? I actually don't like sewing that much. I love sewing. I do. I like making and creating the project, but I feel like I have these ideas and I have to get them out of me and I have to make it. So I feel like I'm as much a seamstress as I am a painter, as I am a handyman. You know, like I build things out of all the materials. Soldering was a lot of fun. It's just, it depends on what I want to make, on what I have to do. So sewing's not necessarily my favorite, but I like what I get when I do it, especially when I do it right. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah. So this fabric right here is a synthetic, meaning it's basically plastic. And if I put a hot heat source on it, it's going to melt it. And then I'm going to have a kind of a hard plasticky burnt texture. It's not going to be nice and soft and fuzzy. But I do want to press it nicely so that this edge is much cleaner. It'll look like way better as soon as I press it because it's not that bad. It really doesn't technically need it, but you know, you want things to look nice. You you do the little extra steps and then it looks much better. But to protect the fabric, I'm just going to use a pressing cloth. It's 100% cotton, so I can use high heat on it. It's not going to leave transfer color or anything. This is just one I've used before. Let me see how hot this is. Oh, it's not even warm yet. It's going to take a second. Okay, ears. Let's talk about bunny ears. So it's cartoon. Bob's Burgers is a cartoon, so we're dealing with cartoon physics, meaning gravity doesn't necessarily work the same, and her ears stick straight up. These ones are significantly way too long, so they're a little harder to keep up, but I think they stick up really nicely. I just have to shorten them significantly right about here, and then yeah, I marked it. It's like right here. They need me to chop down a little bit. Where's my pattern piece? Oh, here's my pattern piece. So this is what they're currently cut at. And hold on. No, this is what I cut them at. This is what I want to cut them at now. And I was thinking about coming out about half an inch, maybe a quarter inch right here, but keeping it narrow down here. So I'm just going to kind of bow it out a little bit more extreme than it is because it's a little too tall of a tower and I want it to have more of a curved shape for the bunny ears. But one thing I want to talk about bunny ears is getting them to stand up. Now, if I just cut out the fabric out of the polar fleece, it's floppy. There is no structure or support to it. It's just going to flop down and you're going to have cute little floppy bunny ears, which I may make like 2 of my hats with floppy ears because it'll be the right hat, but then it'll be more acceptable, or you could wear it in public a little bit more cooler, I guess. I don't know. So I may do a couple with more floppy ears, but if I want the ears to stand up, I got to kind of think about it. So trying to balance something on a straight line, it's going to fall over like a piece of paper. But if I put a fold or a bend in it, it's going to stand up much better on its own. So depending on the material you use as your interfacing meaning the structure and supportive, this inside of here will determine on how you go about getting your ears to stand up. The ones I currently have are made out of they're made out of pool noodles, but not the normal pool noodles. It's the I had a pool floaty that had a lot of pool noodles sewn together in a fabric casing that you're supposed to like lay across. It was from like a couple of summers ago, so the fabric's deteriorated, but the foam was perfectly good and preserved and like nothing was wrong. I'm actually going to take these ears off anyway, so where's my little snippers? Oh, I'll use these ones. I used them as my interfacing because it was fairly easy for it to stand straight up. Okay, so inside of it, it's just the noodle. And I carved it down, but you can see it's a circle. So that was the base that the ears stood up on. Another solution that I had come up with to get the ears to stick straight up, I may still try it, but not necessarily on this one. These are balloon stands. So they have a base and a pole that's lightweight and still washable, because you have to be careful. You can't use cardboard or anything that's going to deteriorate, because this is a garment that's actually going to be worn and not necessarily just a costume piece. It needs to be washable. So this is technically washable and is one of those solutions that I was thinking about using. So see, it has a base that you can, I already sewed up the lining, but if I was to put this on the, if I was to use this, I would put it in the inside of the lining, coming out right at this dart. So I would put it inside the hole that I stitched up, put it right there, and stitch it in place. It has little places that you can loop over on the lining and have it come out that dart, and then have the pole that would stick straight up and hold the weight. That's pretty solid for being a little flimsy headband, but that's not necessarily how I'm going to do this one. I'm going to try doing this one out of floor mat foam. I had a piece of it and I hid it from myself. Oh, here it is. So this has about a ½ inch of width to it. So at the very base of it, am probably going to take a dart out of it so that it does this, so it curves, so that it'll stand up ever so slightly. The curves. So I hope that makes sense. When you do headstands, you don't want to put your hands next to your head, because then you're going to fall over. If you want to do a headstand, you make a triangle from your heads to your hands so that your hands are actually in front of your head, and then you can balance way easier. So that's how we're going to get the ears to stand up. I don't have my pen. Oh, look at me being completely prepared. Actually, it's almost 2:30. I gotta get going. Let me press out the hat and we can do the ears, making them stand up next week. And I'm sorry, but I did not realize that the time got away from me. But it only took me an hour to show you guys how to make a hat. Let me press the edges so that you can see it look a little bit better and nicer. I have a little mini ironing board right there, but I'm not going to use it. I'm just going to use my hand. This is a pressing tool that makes pressing curves way easier. So I like pushing it so the fabric seam is centered. Where's my pressing cloth? And then just right over that, pressing everything in place. Okay, let's see. May have to air dry them since the plastic might melt in the dryer. Foam may be best. Yeah, I think the foam honestly seems like the best idea for me for something sturdy and washable. That's why I want to make the foam work. But rigging wise, I'm like, that makes sense, and It's if I get really kind of desperate and it's not really wanting to stand up the way I want it to. But the foam isn't half bad. The 45th clown. I enjoyed the 10 minutes I saw. Not sure what's going on, but I know how to do a headstand, which is nice. Yes. I coached gymnastics for about 15 freaking years. Really good at coaching little kids on how to do headstands. I have that whole little spiel memorized. I will draw a stick figure on a piece of paper with the head right here and give him little hands and make the little stick figure go upside down and be like, can you balance on a straight line? Nope. But if you put your hands in front of your head, all of a sudden it's way easier, right? That usually helps kids understand like what you're trying to accomplish as opposed to just falling over. Yes. Okay. It's 2:30. I'm just going to really press this because it does look much better if you press it. And the 45th clown, just so you know, we are making Luis's hat from Bob's Burgers. I'm making it for a Christmas present for a couple people I know, and I'm making about 6 of them. So I figured it would be nice to project to live stream, show you guys how to make a hat. I didn't do the pattern on the live stream, but that's mostly me just thinking about math and trying to figure out how I'm going to make a puzzle before I start putting it together. But there are hat patterns everywhere, so. Okay. I made it all the way around. Okay, so I think I'm going to tie these knots. I think I like it in the knots. I'll catch up on the rewatch. I was wondering if Easter outfit. Oh, Easter bunny ears. It very much easily could be. But this is a character, a specific character's hat. It's Luis from Bob's Burgers. And then I'm going to be making the ears that stand up. And I wanted to make them shorter. I was thinking this was a better length because I had them way too long. And I think that's where I want it to be. So, yeah. I've ran out of time today to get this done, but at least I have a completed beanie, and I will do another live stream sometime this week. Depends on the other things that I have to get done this week. And I will show you guys rigging the ears. So I hope you guys learned something. This is a hat sewn. It only took about an hour from start to finish while I was talking to you guys. I am going to have to figure out the ears, but let me see what you guys are saying before I give my final goodbyes. Oh, thank you. I know it's supposed to have ears, but it looks good without it too. Yeah, I know. It's a hat. It's a hat pattern. You can make a bunch of beanies for all your friends. It doesn't have to be Luis. Just Googled that. The picture looks spot on. Yes. Opinion. How long should I do the ears? Is that too short? Because this felt like it was way too long for her. I know they feel ridiculously long in the cartoon, but I feel like they only stick out about that much. And I'm going to line them up on just behind the dart, kind of up towards the top so that they point this way. And then see how it's a straight line, but we're going to go on a curve. We have to make sure that we count that in when we are cutting our foam so that the foam will sit on this curve. Yeah, I think I can do a whole episode on just getting the ears to stick up. So I think we'll do, we'll talk about that next time. I'll give you guys a heads up on Discord when I decide to go live. But but yeah, thank you for joining me. Welcome, and I hope you guys learned something. I hope you enjoyed this, and until the next time, bye. Oh, 2 hour stream for this ears. I hope not, but honestly, the hard part is getting it to stand up, and I already did it with the longer ears, so I think we can do it fine. But I am completely changing my patterns up. But all right, till next time, bye. And